All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to match 3 of our series. In the bottom right-hand corner for Shopify Rebellion, it's Scarlett. And in the bottom left of Blackburn for Storm Gaming, GUMIHO. And after seeing, just the really incredible play in that last series, getting Shopify Rebellion up to this 3-1 position, GUMIHO has his work cut out for him. And of course, GUMIHO is good. GUMIHO is very, very good. And look at that, he's actually eyeing the gold base with his little, we can see his viewpoint here as the observer. And again, this is one of my favorite additions so far to the WTL. It's a little bit of a Brood War thing, I believe, is where in Brood War, StarCraft Brood War, you can actually see where the players are looking on the map with a colored box. Where the observers is white, each player has a colored box that shows where their viewpoint is. And I just think it's a really incredibly awesome, and especially in the early game when you're seeing what players are looking out for, or in the late game when you're watching that army movement and potentially looking for if a run by is going to find damage. If a player is paying attention, you can tell a lot. But I like it. I think it adds a lot to the viewing experience just to be able to keep an eye on that if you like. You know, it's definitely not going to be the focus of, oh, look where Scarlett's eyes are at all times. But as a viewer, you can just kind of look at it and be like, wow, that's interesting. So that's what these players are focusing on. Now, Scarlett and GUMIHO, I don't actually know if they've played a ton. I believe they've played a little bit. But I don't actually remember if they really have a ton of series against each other. I know GUMIHO, of course, did just recently-ish return from military service in South Korea, and has, of course, been, I think, doing pretty good considering. As in their last few matches, it's actually been, well, actually, this is the first time they faced. I just looked it up on a Ligalac. I was gonna say the last few times they faced, oh wow, GUMIHO's really been winning, but that was in 2019. That was in 2019, 2018. GUMIHO was winning every time they met up against each other, but that's not the case anymore. Scarlett is, I think, a much more complete player than she was back in 2019 when GUMIHO left. I think even though she hasn't found insane success like she has in the past, I think her level of play has improved quite drastically in comparison in really all aspects of the game. Whereas for GUMIHO, I definitely feel like you're still kind of finding your stride, and it takes a while too when you come back from that military service. We saw for DRG, I think DRG was one of the quickest rebounds that we saw. DRG came back. It took like a month or so, I believe, and then he was immediately back into GSL doing DRG stuff, playing his own unique style, which was enough to actually throw off a lot of players and for him to be able to get quite convincing victories and make it far in his first GSL run. For Hero, it was, I believe, again, about a month and a half where Hero was playing in online cups. Hero was playing in qualifiers, and he was doing well online, but that didn't necessarily translate into the live events in Korea. And only just recently has really started to show that dominance that we've seen online in these live events, in the GSL, in the Super Tournament, seeing how well he can play. But it's definitely a process, and it's interesting that all of these players are coming back, and we're seeing kind of what their perspective brings to the game after leaving for such a lot, for 2 years or so, and then coming back and saying, all right, well, this is what's changed. What's up? And of course, we did recently have the balance change, the balance patch, which I think has done a little bit. Of course, it isn't the big balance patch, and that's something that has kind of been a discussion in the StarCraft 2 community. Is, well, this patch, it was, it was good, but it wasn't really that big. But apparently, there's more in the works. There's a very, very large patch that's on the way with, that council of players and content creators, which is always great to see. And it's going to be lovely to get a fresh game again, because it's been such a long time. But as it is now, Scarlett has gone up to 3 bases, and we saw GUMIHO eyeing that gold base early on in this game. And look at that. Third command center is going down very, very quickly at the gold base location. Now, Scarlett has not scouted this out. This early Viking has really denied all of the Overlord scouting on the map from Scarlett. That means that GUMIHO, I think, is going to be in a decently good position in this game. Now, GUMIHO does need to find 2 wins in a row in order to tie this up for his team and send it to an ace match. But this is definitely how you get that rolling, is you go for the gold base. You try and find these little advantages. And we're going to see that income for GUMIHO should catch up fairly quickly to that of Scarlett's. And of course, with this, GUMIHO is going into bio. Has that stim pack almost finished up already, as the engineering bay is on the way, and just constant marine production. And we're still really waiting to see what the strategies are going to be for both of these players. Now, 1-1 starts out for GUMIHO, so it looks as though you have a push available for the Praetorian player. You're not necessarily going to really go for it. You have a tank here, you have some marines, maybe you can pressure the gold base at the very least, but it doesn't feel like a push that is really going to find that much damage overall, and I don't even think GUMIHO is really gonna commit that hard. I mean, maybe he actually might bunker up this position. Yeah, there we go. He's actually gonna place down a bunker. He's gonna siege tank up this 4th base to stop the gold from going down. This is a really interesting approach here from GUMIHO. With the bunker, you have that extra defense. You have a fortified position, and Scarlett is gonna respond by immediately sending that run by. GUMIHO, notice it has Hellions to respond. As the bunker is almost going up, the base is low, the queen's now coming through, and there are lings on that right side of the map, the top right-hand corner, I believe. Or no, Scarlett really hasn't responded to this yet, and yeah, that's going to be a cancel on the base. Scarlett did immediately start up a 4th in the top right, just to make sure that she doesn't lose too much time on this base, but even with that, GUMIHO, a great start to this game. Double drop now heading out. Should be able to abandon this position eventually. You don't want to hold it for very long because the Zerg will at one point be able to just build enough Zerglings and run it over, and then you've lost a tank for free and you really didn't get any value out of it. Double drop making its way through, but queens are here, and this is going a bit deep here for GUMIHO. That is a lot of queens for Scarlett. You're looking at 8 queens in total. Definitely not conducive to this drop finding success, but we'll just kind of link around here to the natural base. It's going to force a bigger response out of Scarlett, bringing over all of her Zerglings and Banelings. GUMIHO's not going to be able to really do too much overall. Some good defense from Scarlett. Sure, you've had to give over the gold base, and that does hurt as the Zerg player not being able to get that base up. But with that being said, you haven't really taken much damage outside of that, as they'll be pressuring this location once again, looking for damage onto the hatchery, and it's actually finding a decent bit. Zerglings streaming in 1 by 1 are going to go down now. Drones being focus fired. One medevac gets low. The other is knocked from the sky. GUMIHO just gets the heck out of there. As there was a Baneling run by, only 7 SCVs go down. It's not actually the worst for GUMIHO. You usually expect a bit more damage, but a good response splits the SCVs. Make sure not to lose too much, and this Viking is still alive. This Viking deserves a name. We're gonna name him Larry the Viking. There at the middle of the map. Getting so much value. Now this tank is actually going to move forward to help this push here from GUMIHO, but that's the danger, is that you have this position, and if you're not careful, it's just going to get collapsed on. A lot of those units go down. The tank, though, is still alive, and now you have the rest of the forces making their way on over. You have Hellions chasing down this Ling run by. A great wall off here from GUMIHO. He's actually almost completely walling off his gold base. It isn't complete just yet, so some Lings are going to get through. Some drones are going to start to go down, but now you have 4 tanks at this base. And how do you hold this as Scarlett? Well, the answer is you don't. You go for a counterattack with the Mutalisks into the main base. There are no missile turrets. She has hidden this tech so well. The Spire went down, 4 minutes ago. As Banelings are rolling through, they don't find any good connections, but there's so much Zerg here as Marines are trying to respond to the Mutas. GUMIHO's attention is being split. The tanks, they aren't focus fired. Finally, they are, but the Banelings are still rolling through. The tank at the back is not finding enough value. The bunker is now going to be the target. As GUMIHO, some target fire comes through. He's actually doing a great job there with the target fire. He finds a decent trade, but he's losing SCVs on the back of it. 8 are going down. More to follow as the Marines are trying to fight this, but they end up getting cleaned up. And GUMIHO, he doesn't even get the base. 73 workers still available for Scarlett. She's taking a 5th. And just the fact that she hid that Spire so well. I mean, GUMIHO had no idea. GUMIHO was sitting here. He was completely blind. And Scarlett comes through with the muta backstab. I mean, we've seen it win games before, but GUMIHO did have a good response event. Had enough Marines rallying out to be able to defend it. Got the missile turrets up in time, and now he's going to look for another push. He's ahead in army supply, but it's not by much. Only 9. It's going to be continuing to try and clear up creep, and I believe that Larry the Viking has died. I'm not wrong, that creep has spread past where he was at the middle of the map. Rest in peace, Larry. He was a proud soldier of the Dominion. And 3-3 is on the way for GUMIHO. Thor's in production. Liberators as well. And GUMIHO's going to start to get into his late game tech, and honestly, he's in a good position to do so. It's 4 base versus 5. It's not that bad for the Terran. If you're just down a single base, and mind you, actually right now it's 4 base versus 4 base. I mean, GUMIHO's completely happy with this position. He's getting up the tech units that he wants. He's getting up, you know, the upgrades on time that he wants. He's going to be transitioning into this kind of biomech style. And this is what we see players like Maru do, where they have 3-3 bio, and eventually as it gets to the late game, they switch into mech units because they're just so much stronger. They're so much more efficient versus the Zerg in the late game. Once you get out Hellions, once you get out tanks and Thors, it is just such a strong army composition on top of ghosts and a few bio units to help make run bys and just be a nuisance around the map. It is a really potent style as these Liberators are going to head out. The mutas are going to be sent back to deal with that. Scarlett just being able to notice as Hellbats managed to trade some kills but get cleaned up, and now the Liberators, well, very unfortunately, have been caught. They have been seen. The mutas are just a little bit faster. But you know, makes a little bit of sense as Scarlett trying to do the manual detonation trick at the back of the mineral patch. Mutas are getting caught here, but honestly, Scarlett, I don't think is really too mad about losing just a few. Has a lot more where that came from. Can, of course, rebuild it into different units if she so decides. There's some great transfusions coming down to keep those mutas alive. And it has always baffled me how mutalisks are faster than Terran ships with literal jet engines, but you just have flappy wings, and that, of course, means that they are the quickest unit in StarCraft aside from these Zealots. Or these Zerglings. And of course, Banelings with speed. As upgrades are coming through, smart servos for the tanks and the Hellbats, or the Thors and the Hellbats, those quick transformations. Ooh, nice stem there. Catches quite a few mutas. But you also have Drilling Claws +1 vehicle weapons. GUMIHO just using this bio to kind of keep an eye out for where the Zerg is. GUMIHO does need to take a 5th though. Right now you have a 4-base Terran, and sure, that's good. But eventually the Zerg will outgrow you. Right now, Scarlett is already sitting at 6 bases to the 4 of her opponent. She can add on a 7th fairly shortly here, although it is hard to. On Blackbird, the 7th bases. Oh, here's the fight. I mean, this is not a position that Scarlett wants to fight in. You see her supply immediately drop, as there is so much here for GUMIHO. Right now sitting at 127, 129 army supply. And oh, look at this Baneling swarm. Comes through the cracks in the minerals, but GUMIHO is pushing across the map at the same time. He's not looking to defend, no, he's looking to trade. That's gonna be the 7th base going down. The Mutalisks actually go into the Marines. A lot of them end up falling. Now the Banelings are here. GUMIHO, is he gonna have the splits? Is he gonna be ready? Well, already pre-splits his army back. He knows that he can't really commit that far forward when Scarlett just has so much available to her. 14 SCVs go down, 12 drones are traded. That Liberated at the back of the 5th, also getting a decent amount of damage done. Mind you, this is all without the +1 being done for GUMIHO. This Sling run by should actually get quite a bit of value. There is no Marines here to help with this trade. They will eventually be brought over, but the tanks and Marauders, they don't deal well with light units in their untransformed forms. As look at this army for Scarlett. It is so many Banelings, and are there enough tanks? I don't think GUMIHO has enough tanks to deal with this. And look at this. Scarlett's looking for the surround. You need Widow Mines. You need tanks. You don't have any of them, GUMIHO. Are the splits going to be good enough? The Thors are trying to tank up a majority of the damage, and so far they're doing a good job of it. But the Zerg swarm is just going to crush through. And GUMIHO's army falls to pieces. Scarlett is on an 8 Ultralisk Remax. And this is why you need to get Widow Mines. You need tanks And GUMIHO just had none with his army. He was caught in the middle of the map. Didn't even try to lift up into the medevacs. Personal cloaking is on the way for Ghost, but it's 7 Ultralisks for Scarlett. Her army just got so much stronger. Chitinous plating isn't done yet, mind you. Neither is +3/+3. So these Ultras, they're not extremely strong just yet. They can actually be knocked down quite quickly by the Marauders. Is GUMIHO going to be able to stop that attack? And 8 Ultras for Scarlett. It is deadly, her army. I mean, again, we saw if GUMIHO steps out of position, the Zerg collapses, and that's just the danger of not having splash damage with your army. You're trying to fight into these Banelings with just pure efficiency, and you really can't do that. There's going to be more Banelings than you can ever deal with just your bio, unless you have an incredible sim city of buildings. You need Widow Mines, you need tanks with that army if you're out in the middle of the map. GUMIHO, it was quite a big oversight. Has established his 5th, though. Has a 6th on the way. You're going to be seeing these 62 workers get to mining and getting to try and rebuild the economy. But it doesn't look like Scarlett's really going to give a chance for that. Scarlett is swinging her entire army up. She has so much creep spread. She has control of this entire map, and she's found an opening for the Banelings to roll on through. Doesn't look like they really want to commit on in there. But 6 Infestors on the way, and with that, Scarlett's going to be rounding out this army. Infestor Ultra. The Marines, the Marauders, they might have stim, but they're not going to be able to run away if they are fungal growth. If there is just dirty Zerg goo keeping them from moving. As the ghost count is steadily starting to rise here for GUMIHO. Some great focus fire onto those Banes. But of course, has to be careful. You don't really have a medevac with this army. Loses quite a bit for it, but manages to clean up that counterattack. And for GUMIHO, would like to see him establish that 6th base up in the top left-hand corner, but he really can't do that. GUMIHO has to protect the bottom right side of his bases. He has to protect this 5th. He needs to mine from it. There's no other option. He can't afford to split his army against what Scarlett has, because if he does that, Scarlett will just swing her whole army into one position and completely roll over the half, that of GUMIHO's forces that are there. As we see, once again, the Burrowed Infestor is gonna look for that fungal. It's gonna look for that neural parasite onto a ghost. Get the EMP onto its brethren. See if it's going to happen. Here we go. GUMIHO going to try and push back this creep. It is getting quite ridiculous how much Scarlett has spread it. I mean, GUMIHO was doing such a good job of denying the creep spread earlier. Some good fungal growths are going to be able to kill quite a few Marines. But even with GUMIHO's best efforts, this creep has continued to spiral out of control. And oh, that Infestor is so close to making the play that we all know it wants to make. It has become, this has become the meta against this late game Terran army, is just don't let the ghosts have energy. Get the EMP off. Here we go. Scarlett cleans up a lot of the bio. Is she gonna fish for it? Snipes come down. They don't find a lot of damage though. And 2 netizens into the main base actually at the same time. Scarlett is gonna be looking for a backstab into the main at the same time. Is she gonna pressure the front? I mean, it doesn't even look like she needs to. There's barely any army here for GUMIHO, and what's gonna unload? Well, it should be a whole lot of Lings if I'm not wrong. Scarlett doesn't even go for it, but she knows, hey, I can just swing my army up to the top right side of the map. I'm going to stop this base once again. I'm going to knock down a whole lot of those supply depots. As Milos does fall. +2 vehicle weapons on the way. A great, actually, EMP here. These ghosts doing a great job so far. 3 of them do end up going down, but the snipes coming through. Mind you, these Ultras have 3/3. They have chitinous plating. They are at 8, I believe, armor in total. Marines do a measly 3 damage to them. I believe it's 3 damage. Isn't it even 1 damage from Marines? Actually, it's ridiculously low. These Ultras are so tanky, and now GUMIHO is going to look for a push. He has a lot of tanks. He has a lot of ghosts, but he has to be careful. As Infestors running forward, they're going to get sniped down. Scarlett being a little bit careless here. This space Looks like it's gonna fall again. The Ghost pulling back though. The snipes going down. The snipes are actually extremely good for GUMIHO. But Scarlett has 9k minerals in the bank, 3k gas. She can absolutely remax as easily as she needs. And look at that, 16 Broodlords. She was hiding the Corruptors. And now this transition here from Scarlett. The Ghost though, if they scout it, if a scan goes down, he can deny it, but he doesn't see it. Oh, GUMIHO. So close yet so far. Oh, now I think should see it, but look at that fungal growth onto a large chunk of the Ghost. EMPs go down, but it's too late. They try and cloak, but the Banelings are rolling through, and suddenly Scarlett has found a fight. Now she has 16 Broodlords. And GUMIHO, what do you have? Vikings are on the way, but he doesn't even have a high Ghost count. He needs to rebuild. And Scarlett is essentially almost out of gas, but she has taken a 7th base. That 7th is extremely important for Scarlett in this game. Keeping up that gas production, and look. This is, I mean, this is old school TVZ when we saw mass Broodlord transitions. Broodlord Infestor. You gotta love here actually, the dropped EMP. And just to get quite a bit of damage onto those Infestors and Nuke. Gonna clean up the drones here left in the natural. And not much more. Nukes are on the map for GUMIHO, and that's, I mean, if you can find a good nuke, I mean, we've all seen what one good nuke can do, especially if your opponent is solar. This is Scarlett, though. I don't know if she's gonna make that mistake as the Broodlords are moving forward. We're focusing on this Ghost, but right now, look at this run by into the 6th. GUMIHO has to pull the SCVs away. It's 57 workers versus 57 workers. GUMIHO losing it now, or he's losing a bit just now to make that in favor of the Zerg by 2. But the armies are incredibly massive as, oh, look at GUMIHO here trying to push. That's a good fungal growth though. The Broodlords aren't here quite yet. Snipes go down. That's the detection. The Ghost gotta back up to this tank line, but the tank line really isn't that useful against Broodlings. And these tanks actually might be forfeit. You don't have Thors right now. They're only just now being built. Vikings as well as GUMIHO gonna look for that medevac drop into the EMP. And this is such a unique usage of these units from GUMIHO. Really haven't seen anything like it. As +3 vehicle weapons is actually on the way before +3 vehicle plating is on the way. Vehicle and ship plating before +3 vehicle weapons. Of course, you want that durability for the Thors and for your Vikings. They just need to be able to tank a little bit more than usual. As look at this, GUMIHO splitting up his army. GUMIHO looking to hit 2 places once because he knows those Broodlords, they can't be in 2 places at once. Scan goes down, manages to snipe off the Infestor. He's going to pull back as the majority of that lane bane is headed towards GUMIHO's army. And now the Broodlords, they're going to siege up this planetary fortress, and you really can't do much against 16 Broodlords. Oh, Scarlett. Look at that targeting with the Broods. Knows what the plan is, gets rid of it. Scarlett is playing so well. But now Vikings are being brought over, only 4. There are actually Corruptors already here. You get 1 Broodlord, but the rest of the Vikings are going to be forfeit as, look at this, GUMIHO's looking for a push, doesn't have these Thors in high impact payload just yet, and that's actually a pretty big oversight. Ooh, great EMPs, gets a lot of the energy off of those Infestors, and look at GUMIHO here, countering the Zerg tech with a tech of his own. It's a medevac with a Ghost in it. Now high impact payload has been switched over. These cannons from the Thors are absolutely going to thunder away. They're moving forward. They're focus firing onto the Broodlords. Here we go. Look at GUMIHO split. Look at the spread, but the Banelings are rolling through. And they're going to find so much value. Great pullbacks from GUMIHO onto his Thors, but doesn't matter. The Banelings are continuing to roll through. The Ghost count is non-existent, but the detection is also mostly gone. GUMIHO trying to fight this. More snipes going down. He gets rid of the detection. The Ghost, they can start to snipe away. The Ghost, there's no detection. Fungal growths aren't going to be able to come through. Finally, they're going to be revealed as more snipes go down, but only 4 Broodlords remain. The supplies have dropped. 110 to 107. Scarlett comes out on top, but she loses a base. She loses 23 workers, but she has the bank. She has the ability to remax that GUMIHO does not. GUMIHO's mining is non-existent. That 7th base got eliminated, and if he could have gotten that back up, maybe he'd have a better position here. But look how many Zerglings there are. This Bio's gonna try and fight the best it can, and actually it's gonna fight quite well. Scarlett here, I think, overextending just a little bit. All the Lings go down. The Corruptors are now gonna start to fall as well. And this is a scrappy game. Now Infestors being targeted. There are ghosts out. The Infestors go down. 6 more Broodlords. This is it for Scarlett. She is not mining anything right now. Neither is GUMIHO. She has enough for Lings. She has enough for Banes. Oh, GUMIHO. Here's the army. Where's that fungal growth? It's onto a majority of these units. The Binglings are going to roll through, and I just don't think GUMIHO has enough. He has nothing to counter the ground army. And that's going to be his only strong mining base going down. Scarlett with a beautifully played game. It was so close for the entirety. I mean, there are 3-4 Thors here for GUMIHO. Had he had those with his main army and his other base, maybe he could have defended it. I mean, mind you, these Thors, they don't have 3-3. They're actually missing their +3 vehicle weapons. It is such a hard game to call, but right now Scarlett is undeniably in the lead. Three Thors, Marines, and a Dream. That's what there is here for GUMIHO. No more ghosts. Fire away. One of those Broodlords not going to be able to get it, though. The Banelings continuing to roll around, continuing to find an opening. GG just gonna be called. GUMIHO realizes he doesn't have it left in him. Scarlett's gonna take map number 1, and what a map it was. And Shopify Rebellion managing to clinch out the series. Of course, this last map will be played, but Scarlett. It is crazy how good she played that last game. I mean, it was close. Both players made mistakes. Don't get me wrong, but she played that out so beautifully, as we're gonna see here. GUMIHO, 3 proxy racks going down onto the map. This is this is quite the committal. It's not a complete proxy, though, is the crazy thing. GUMIHO's doing this not even halfway across the map. So it's going to take a while for these Marines to move across the map. It's going to take a while for them to get to these Scarlett's natural, even once the barracks are finished. Let alone these SCVs joining to try and add on bunkers. This is an interesting build idea here from GUMIHO. And of course, the natural transition is, if this doesn't work out, you just go into a 3 racks opening. But the pool should mostly be done by the time that GUMIHO's even trying to get towards this natural. Look at that. The pool will be close to finishing up, and Scarlett will be able to scout the fact that, hey, there is nothing here. Her Overlord should go down, though. Marines now being brought over, 3 at a time being rallied across the map, and bunkers are going to start to go down. Where's the drone pool? There we go. Scarlett gonna look to try and hold. Immediately, Spinecrawler goes down. Marines have to be brought forward. They managed to get the Overlord, but you now have to protect these SCVs building the singular bunker. If the bunker goes up, this could just be game over right where it is, as Scarlett, looking for the drone surround, does a good job. Look at that, though. The bunker's getting so close to finishing. The stutter step here from GUMIHO. Oh, has now 4 Marines with it. The bunker doesn't go up. Oh my, it was a second away from finishing. That is massive. I mean, that is the game right there if that goes up for GUMIHO. And it is half a second away from finishing. That hurts so much for the Terran player. GUMIHO is going to bring over more SCVs, but already you have a Spinecrawler poking away at it. The cancel has to go down. The SCVs are going to be brought back. Oh my. And Scarlett manages to hold on. That just, I mean, let it settle how heartbreaking that is for GUMIHO. He has a command center on the way. He's going to go into double gas, but he committed so much to this. He's going to continue producing Marines from the barracks because he can't really afford to float them back. Needs to continue with this map pressure, needs to continue to have presence so that Scarlett just can't go across the map. But that was about the worst case scenario. The fact that that bunker just finishes so close to being done. 3 spine crawlers are being built here from Scarlett, and it might be a bit of an overreaction, but of course doesn't want to die to GUMIHO just amassing Marines for a follow-up and then pushing up that ramp, because that is enough to kill a singular spine crawler if you get up towards 16 Marines. And then your queens really aren't that useful. GUMIHO will scout it. GUMIHO will just bring his barracks back, and he's immediately going into a 3rd command center. He realizes that he just needs to try and recover as fast as possible. Good cancels from Scarlett. Realizes that she doesn't need those spines. And Roach Warren is on the way as this game has slowed down. I mean, naturally, this game has slowed down. It's a situation where Scarlett is pretty happy. She defended the 3 racks. She is just going to macro up, add on this 3rd hatchery, get up into roaches, potentially for a timing attack later. And then GUMIHO has to catch up. And so he's not going to be out on the map. Scarlett's not really going to be out on the map. Neither of these players are going to be doing much. They're going to be getting upgrades. They're going to be trying to get as much of a lead and recover back into a lead as much as they can. I mean, right now, of course, this game is very much favoring Scarlett. She has a 3rd hatchery already on the way, almost finished. Roach Warren done. She will be heading, it looks like, into +1/+1 roaches. But GUMIHO's done a good job of recovering. Is at 35 workers right now. Is continuing again with this 3 command center production. It's actually missing a few SCV rounds here though, and only producing 2 at a time. Does have the 3rd command center though. I am slightly confused as to why GUMIHO does not have more in production. There's a lot of money floating here for the Sidestorm Gaming Terran. Stim is on the way, +1 vehicle weapons, more barracks as well in production. So finally, we're going to get 3 SCVs at a time started up. I imagine a hotkey mishap there, but Cleo reconstitution for Scarlett. And I would really love to hype this game up, but right now, unless GUMIHO can make some magic happen with these pushes, it's going to be a hard argument to make that he can win this game. Mind you, this is a situation where last game, GUMIHO was ahead. GUMIHO did such a good job getting himself a lead, and even with that, Scarlett was able to recover. Scarlett was able to find the win in the late game. And now suddenly you're having to play from behind as we're going to have the stim attack here, but roaches are already out. Good kiting against the lings from GUMIHO is going to be able to find an okay trade, but even with that, just has to back on up. The 3rd command center is going down, and we're up to 4 racks here for GUMIHO. Or actually 5 racks, I believe, from GUMIHO. 2-2 on the way for Scarlett. As GUMIHO tried to make that push work, but it really doesn't work out. Apologies for the breaks here, as I'm trying to assess this game, and it's really hard to. I'm kind of sitting here and I'm looking at it, I'm like, I mean, where does GUMIHO go from here? And that's kind of the awkward silences, and that's the awkward pacing right now of the game, is where does GUMIHO go? What does he do to get back in this game? Because right now you're sitting at a 164 supply of Zerg. That's 98 supply of roaches. GUMIHO doesn't have tanks. if GUMIHO does, it is not a significant amount of them available just yet, especially when you already have so many Ravagers out on the map. 3 tanks is not really enough, especially without any SimCity, especially with so little bio. Here he goes, Scarlett's gonna push, and gotta worry immediately. Vials go down, and this third base just has to lift off, and this is, again, the worst case scenario for GUMIHO. He's not even going to be able to get up his third base to be able to steam. And with these Marines, though, and actually getting a few queens here is very, very nice. Finding a lot of value out of these units. More queens going down. And the fact that he's going to be able to clean up these queens means that potentially he might be able to slow it down the push from Scarlett now. Looking for drone kills as well. I mean, GUMIHO, he's making some good moves here. But look at the supply. Look at the soup. The soup does not lie. And it's 186 to 130. It's soon going to be 2-2 Roaches versus 1-1 Bio, which is never a position that you want to be in. And sure, GUMIHO will have more tanks by the time the second push comes through. But is that really going to matter with this upgrade discrepancy? So here we go. Scarlett's going to look for it. The tanks are already starting to fire away. They have a good cover of these bunkers. Makes it a little bit harder for Scarlett to try and push on in. Of course, can use the Ravagers to knock those down. Oh, here we go. Scarlett immediately going to bile down the first tank. There's another one on the high ground that's getting focused as well. One more tank left for GUMIHO, but it's so far away from the fight as the bio is trying to stim in and win this. And I mean, GUMIHO is actually doing a good job of it. The tank is trying its absolute hardest to find value, and look at that. Almost all the Roaches are down. GUMIHO trying to dodge the biles. He's going to try and push this forward. If he can get rid of the Ravagers, suddenly this game looks completely different. But the Ravagers just find so much value. 12 SCVs fall. The third base is once again gutted. Scarlett is on 5 bases. Almost said Cyril. And GUMIHO's going to continue to try and fight this, but it's 2-2 versus 1-1. Your army does not fight as well. The base goes down. GG. That's going to be the 5-1 for Shopify Rebellion. Scarlett gets the 2-0 sweep. And that's going to close it out for us today.